Hello. I'd introduce myself, but you already know me. I'm your neighbor, your uncle, the guy next to you in class. Statistically, I'm white, older, male. Just go with it, okay? And today, I just wanted to talk to you about climate change. Now, climate change has been in the news a lot lately, right? Have you heard of that girl, that young woman, Greta Thunberg? It's just so inspiring and so passionate. Bless her heart. Too bad everything's going to shit. Now, my pal Jonathan Franzen the other day wrote this article in the New Yorker titled, "What if we stop pretending the climate apocalypse is coming? To prepare for it, we need to admit that we can't prevent it." And there's a couple of key takeaways that have been swirling around my intellectual brain that I'd like to share with you. First, in the long run, it probably makes no difference how badly we overshoot 2 degrees. Once the point of no return is passed, the world will become self-transforming. And the second quote is, "A false hope of salvation regarding the climate apocalypse can be actively harmful. If you persist in believing that a catastrophe can be averted, you commit yourself to tackling a problem so immense that it needs to be everyone's overriding priority forever." And finally, last but not least, all-out war on climate change made sense only as long as it was winnable. Once you accept that we've lost it, other kinds of actions take on greater meaning. And I agree with him, almost to the point where I could have written this article myself. Climate change will affect us all equally, unequivocally, till death do take thee. So I propose that we keep to ourselves, not let these dramatic protests get in the way, and realize that on a doomed earth, there's simply just not much else that we can do. Sorry, excuse me. Hi, yes, this is he. Yeah, about that bunker, is it 10 or 15 feet underground? Hi friends, it's Sarah. There's a new strain of climate denier going around that's really threatening the very real work that we need to do to mitigate our climate crisis. Denialist. And this term is coined by Mary Anais Hegler. And what are climate denialists? Well, you just heard from one of them, and their basic premise is, oh bother, it's too far gone. Let's bunker down for the apocalypse. And I'm here to tell you that that's utter, complete horseshit. There is time, not a lot, to reduce our emissions to where we can avoid 1.5 degrees of warming. And if we don't, well, according to Vox, we keep going. We work for 1.8 degrees and 2 and 2.1 and so on and so forth. There's not a magical moment where we stop working toward climate justice, where the war on climate change is lost. Okay, here are some facts according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change on what really the situation is, and this is the only time I'm ever going to talk about facts on this channel, so please listen up. 1. Humans have already caused between 0.8 and 1.2 degrees of warming. 2. Global warming is likely to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius between 2030 and 2052 if emissions continue to increase at the current rate. 3. To limit to 1.5 degrees will take 45% reduction of emissions from 2010 levels by 2030, reaching net zero by 2050. And 4. Keeping warming below 1.5 degrees will avoid the worst impacts of our climate crisis. These impacts will vary by region, but could include more extreme hurricanes, droughts, and wildfires, food shortages, coral die-off, and sea level rise. Okay, I'll admit it, that doesn't seem like a good spot to be in, but the experts haven't thrown in the towel yet. And when we're just looking at numbers, and one of the reasons I don't really like to talk about science on this channel, other than the fact that I'm not a climate scientist, is when we just look at numbers, it devoids climate change of its humanity. I'm not sure where most of you are watching this video from, but if I were to guess, I would say somewhere that has a democracy, somewhere that has low levels of absolute poverty, and somewhere that would probably qualify as the global north. When I look outside of my room right now, I see sunshine. I see people who are worried about the next midterms, and I see my frat bro neighbors who are pumping EDM at 1 p.m. on a Sunday. But I don't see climate change yet. However, all over the world right now, today, there are people suffering from our climate crisis. And it should come at no shock to anyone that these very real people are usually from countries that have suffered through colonialism, and two, are people who have contributed the least to this crisis that we're in. I'll let my favorite climate justice essayist, Mary, take it from here. Climate change is a man-made problem. If I can be real, it is a white man-made problem. Climate change started with conquest, genocides, slavery, and colonialism. That is a moment when white man's relationship with living things became extractive and disharmonious. Everything was for the taking, everything was for sale. And I'd love to talk more about this, but I don't think it's my voice that you should be listening to here. So I've linked people of color and Indigenous folks who have been at the forefront of fighting for climate justice in the description, and I hope you take a second to look at their work and support them. So let's go back a little bit to our pal at the beginning of this video. Oh, me? I'm so glad you came back to listen, sweetie. Look, we need to stop centering this blame on white men. I didn't do anything wrong, except maybe not recycle a beer bottle every once in a while. But see, it was my ancestors. And it's not like it matters anymore now because we're all in this together. And it's like my grandpappy used to say, women are just like... That's enough. Look, the denialists, the cynics, and the deniers are wrong. We're not all going to be affected equally by climate change. By the time it's a 2050 warmed world, a lot of these people will be dead, and those who are still alive and have power and privilege will be able to have better insurance policies, will be able to fly places, and really can avoid the biggest impacts of our climate crisis. So when people like that of power and privilege are telling people that, oh, it's too late, it's time to give up, we all just need to stop this now, it's not accurate. So if by chance you get stuck in a conversation with one of these outstanding gentlemen, remind them of what your climate justice looks like. Tell them about the human rights you'd rather not see perish and the more equal world you're looking to create. And if they don't get it, I'd like to give you some tips here, and I've done some research and really thinking on it, but when it comes down to explaining what's happening to, one, those who don't accept climate science, aka the classic deniers, and two, those who think we're doomed, aka the new age deniers, I don't think that it's worth your time, my time, or the movement's time. 350's Climate Resistance Handbook talks about the acceptance of climate science on a spectrum. On the left side, we have our active allies. Active opponents are on the right. In between might be passive allies or passive opponents, folks who might agree or disagree with you but aren't doing anything about it. Or they may be neutrals, those who are in the true center, who either are misinformed, truly apathetic, or just don't know where they lie yet. Campaigns and activism should really focus on moving those passive opponents, neutrals, and passive allies further to your side, which means that we should be ignoring the climate deniers and saying hi to those people who are just truly apathetic. Probably like my neighbors who are on their porch staring at me right now. With all that in mind, here are some action steps that you can take. 1. Use your platform to amplify marginalized voices, whatever that platform may be. We've all got a Twitter, we've all got Instagram, so take some time out of your day and follow people who are on the front lines of climate justice and make sure you're sharing their work. 2. Read up on climate justice. Like I said, I'm going to link some stuff in the description so you can really start to dive into that material. And 3. Reject and rage against nihilism, not to the nihilists themselves, but to others, and most importantly, to yourself. So that's it for today's video, friends. I hope you got something out of this other than me just getting to play an old cranky man, and I'll see you in the next one, friends.